This podcast may contain paid advertisements, but more on that later. Welcome to the O'Connor Bootstrap podcast, where I discuss the nuts and bolts of business and leadership, with a focus on bootstrapping a business from the ground up. This podcast is for all entrepreneurs, bootstrappers, and leaders in all walks of life. My goal is to help you grow both personally and professionally. I am your host, Isaiah O'Connor. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com, the world's largest collection of audiobooks. They also have Audible originals, college lectures, podcasts, dramatized books. Really good place to go listen to things that you can learn from. Matter of fact, I've learned so much about business and about how to be a better man, better husband, for example, from listening to books on Audible.com. And of course, like I said, business books. The business book I recommend today is the book The Go Giver by Bob Burg. It's a great little book. It's not that long. It's like 3.5 hours or so long to listen to, 2.5, 3 hours. It's not very long. But it's a great little story about being a giver. And if you've listened to my podcast for any length of time, you've probably heard me say that you need to give more in value than you take in money. That is a direct quote from the Go Giver. It's very, very important. I find it to be of paramount importance. That's why I talk about value so much in this podcast. It's an amazing little story. It's really quick, short listen. You can listen to it in a couple hours. If you got a couple of long commute like I do now, about 40 minutes each way, listen to it one way and back and one way again, and you're good. So go check it out, The Go Giver by Bob Burg. And of course, if you go over to audible.com/bootstrap with the capital B, you can get a free copy and a 1-month free trial. When you sign up, you get a 30-day trial, comes with a audio book, 2 Audible originals, and access to their streaming library for 1 month. It's a wonderful deal. After that, it's only $14.95 a month afterwards. I have around 120 books, I think, last I checked. Somewhere, I lost track. I have a lot of books there. Go check it out, audible.com/bootstrap, and that is with the capital B. Now, so first of all, sorry this podcast came out a little bit later in the day than usual. I had a hectic weekend with lots of family. Anyway, so today we'll be talking about sick leave, sick time. How do you deal with sick leave with your employees? And I've experienced quite a few different ways, and this is just my preference from where I'm coming from. Oh, and before I continue, I do thank you for listening to my podcast. I am very thankful that I have people listening. It's really cool, so I want to thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Anyway, so there are different things for having sick days and attendance issues. How do you deal with those? Now, I worked at one place where sick days and late were both considered attendance. So therefore, if you were late or you were sick, you were still penalized the same way. There's 2 ways to go. Matter of fact, I'll go back to that. When it comes to sick leave and being late, there's a couple of things way you can do it. With sick leave, you can make it a penalty. If you're sick, you get in trouble. You have a certain amount of sick days, and after that, you get fired. That's one way. Then you can go with the other way, which is you have so many days of paid sick leaves, and after that, you don't get any more paid sick days. And if you take any days off sick after that, then you don't get paid for the day. So that's more of a reward option. So it's more comfortable that way. Now, I live in Norway, and by law, you have a certain amount of sick days you can take per year or something like that. I can't remember the exact one. Paid sick days. And any of these days that you take off that are paid sick days, you have to have a doctor's note saying you're sick. With a doctor's note, you get a paid sick day. You also have a few sick days that you can take on your own, but you only have very few of those, and it's limited. I can't remember the details. So, I do apologize if I'm a little bit rambly. I'm a little tired today. Anyway, so you've got paid sick days, unpaid sick days, and penalized sick days, kind of the three options. Now, if I had a bunch of employees and I was in the States, I would go with the paid sick days, certain number of paid sick days, because that's what I think is the most efficient way to get employees to come to work and not call in sick. Now, you can penalize people for being sick too. That also can be effective. But I don't like the being threatening people with losing their job because they get sick. I think that's, sick. And I also do not think you should say, well, being sick and calling out sick and being late, well, they're both attendance. I don't think you should couple those together. And if you do, then I would decouple them. Because being sick and calling in sick, yes, can be a very obvious habit, a pattern that you can spot in an employee. And if an employee keeps calling in sick all the time, then there might be something wrong and you need to look into it. But being late is a different story. If an employee is consistently late, that's not being sick. That's them not getting up early, waiting for the last bus, waiting for the last minute. That's a behavioral issue that can be dealt with accordingly and should be dealt with accordingly. But if your employees are afraid about getting penalized for being sick, that can cause problems as well. And it also can make employees disloyal. Matter of fact, one day at one place I worked, overall pretty decent place to work, but they had some issues. They had a sick policy and a late policy that were coupled together, and they were very, very strict and very, very harsh. They had a point system. You had 10 points per year. Every time you were late, you'd get half a point, depending on how late you were. If you're a couple minutes late, if you're way, way late, it might be a full point, up to your supervisor's discretion. And if you were sick for a day, you would get a point every day you were gone. Did not give you much room there to deal with it. Problem was, I was oftentimes late, mainly because I couldn't figure out the bus schedule and or ruin my bike. Yeah, I had problems getting to work on time sometimes. And that was my bad. I need to change that, which is okay. I understood that. So I would try not to be late, of course. But the problem is, because I had a few late days when I was sick, I would quickly go through sick days and then I was in trouble. Matter of fact, I was sick for enough days in a row that I had run out of sick days, and I was late a couple times. And then I was completely out of sick days, completely out of the attendance points. And a large part of that was my bad about being late, which I did eventually figure out to fix. But I then got pink eye, which is highly, highly contagious, and you have to be out. And I actually called in and said, hey, I got pink eye. The doctor said I could work as long as I wash my hands every few minutes. Hope you don't mind. I'm coming to work. They're like, no, you need to stay home. No, but I'm coming to work. It's fine. The doctor says I can be fine. And they said, no. I'm like, but I'm out of points. I have to come to work. I can't lose my job. Like, no, don't worry. You stay home. It's okay. We're not going to give you a point. Which is kind of funny because I purposely did it that way. Because if I just said, hey, I have sick leave, a doctor's note, they might not have been so nice. Matter of fact, same place, my wife got blood poisoning. And if she had gone to work, she might have wound up in the hospital or dead. Little serious. She had a doctor's note explaining why she couldn't be there, and they still took her doctor the sick points because of it, which is a big deal. That tends to make you disloyal as an employee. And then there was the day I showed up. I was really sick in my stomach. On my way in, I had to stop and run to the bathroom at least one time, if not 2 or 3 times. I can't remember. It was a couple of times. And because I had to run to the bathroom, I was late by like 2 minutes. And I got in there and said, "I'm sorry, I'm sick. I probably will have to go home." And the boss didn't care. She was not a very good supervisor. She didn't care. I told her I was sick. She didn't care. She docked me a point for being late, and then when I went home early, she docked me another point, and then docked me another point for being sick. Really sucks when you're an employee just trying to work and take care of your family. Do you know that if you're really, really sick, people just don't care, and they're more concerned with docking you and punishing you for being sick. I got in a car accident, went to the hospital, checked myself out. Nope, they didn't care. Docked me points again. So that's a harsh way to go. And people just didn't care eventually. And yeah, it kind of sort of worked. People didn't call in sick all the time, but some people did. I had employees working under this policy that would call in sick all the time anyway, and eventually they would get fired because they just didn't care. Not the best incentive. Now, with paid sick days or not unpaid sick days, where you can just take a few sick days off without any penalty, but you don't get any pain, that's okay. And I think even with the paid sick days, you can have this as a policy where you don't punish somebody for being sick, they just don't get paid. That is another option. It's not horrible, but I don't think it's great. Again, I do think that taking care of people is very important, and providing value to people by providing them jobs, a way to take care of their families, is a great way to go. So, punishing people for being sick, that's a pretty big deal. Now, again, depending on your money situation, if you can afford to pay them sick days, then please, I would say, do that. Give an employee, say, a certain amount of paid sick days a year, maybe 10, with maybe an exception of COVID, of course, with this being the situation these days. But you decide how many days in a year they can take off as paid sick days. So if they are really sick, they will be able to stay home and not worry about paying the bills, not worry about losing money. It will make them more loyal, more comfortable, and more likely to stay away from work and not get everyone else sick if they know they're okay. That's another thing. Unpaid sick days and sick days where you are punishing them for being sick, where you put under attendance and go after them because they're sick, you're going to get employees coming to work sick as a dog and spreading disease, something you do not want to happen. So better that a sick person go home, stay at home, be sick, and be okay, and not worry about it. So I do suggest a certain number of paid sick days, and some places allow you to take a paid sick day and add it on to the end of your vacation to extend your vacation a couple of days. Especially it's at the end of the year and their sick days are about to roll over anyway into the next year. So you might consider that. And as you can imagine, if you've worked for any of these positions and if you're wanting to give out these positions, you can imagine that an employee that feels like they can be sick and not be in trouble, not looked down at, they might be more loyal, they might be more comfortable coming to work, have a better work relationship, feel more part of a team, and also feeling part of a team will not want other people to get sick. So when they are generally sick, they can stay home and keep their sickness at home and not bring it to work with them. And another thing, if the person's really stressed about money, then they will very often go to work sick. And matter of fact, the reason I mentioned this whole thing came up, was a Facebook post from one of my friends where they saw one of their fast food workers show up sick, and the manager said, I won't tell anyone because please don't tell anyone. I need the money. I need to work. And the manager decided to let him go and work anyway because he needed the money badly. So yeah, paid sick days are very important. And if you have people that are in a tipped position, you might want to try to figure out an average of how much money they make in tips per day and maybe throw that in on top of their regular hourly pay, because a person who is in a tip position, odds are they're making most of their money from tips. So if you can compensate them for the loss of tips, again, you're going to encourage them to go home and stay home and get better and keep them more loyal. Anyway, those are my thoughts on sick leave and sick pay. You guys have a great day. Talk to you later. Now, just to give you a little bit of a announcement. In about 2 weeks' time, I will be having on Friday, not this Friday, but next Friday, I'm having an author on one of my favorite business books coming to be on the podcast. I'm going to be able to interview him. It's going to be great, and I'm really excited. I'm going to drop more hints as to who this is in the near future. You can go check out the O'Connor Bootstrap Facebook page as well, O'Connor Bootstrap Podcast Facebook page that I'm going to drop hints on there, as well as the O'Connor Bootstrap Book Club as well. I will be dropping hints and information coming up on that. Also, I do invite you to come and join us over there on the O'Connor Bootstrap Podcast Facebook group and the O'Connor Bootstrap Book Club as well, because not only will you be able to discuss things and get advice from other business people, but I will now allow people to once a week on the O'Connor Bootstrap Podcast Facebook page advertise once a week there on the page in the group, as well as put information about the podcasting, upcoming guests, upcoming topics, all that good stuff. Anyone, come check us out over there. Talk to you later. You have a great day. Bye-bye. If you found value in this content, please leave a comment and give us a 5-star rating on whichever podcast platform you use. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and most other podcast platforms. If you would like to support us, you can check out our sponsor links, or if you would like to directly support the show, you can donate or join our membership program at buymeacoffee.com/bootstrap. Of course, it really helps when you share these podcasts as well. If you would like to interact with me and other bootstrappers and leaders, you can join our O'Connor Bootstrap Podcast Facebook group. You have been listening to the O'Connor Bootstrap Podcast and Atheoz Business Solutions Podcast. For our companion podcast, the Atheoz Business Podcast, hosted by Jason St. Clair, past episodes, and related blogs, check out our website at www.atheoz.com, which is www.atheoz.com, or theoz.com. Until next time, I've been your friendly neighborhood entrepreneur, Isaiah O'Connor.